Hey everybody, we're going to be reading chapter 14. This Ed puzzle is only sent to you if you missed your reading Google Meet this week. Remember, it's super important that you're attending those meets because that's where I teach and you're able to get content from your actual teacher. Okay, so we're going to be reading chapter 14 together. So I need you to go ahead and grab your Fudge Mania book. Open it up to page 137. And you should see chapter 14, The Ring Bear. Big news, Mr. Fargo announced 2 days later. My dealer in New York loves the idea of baby feet. I'm going to do a whole series of baby feet paintings, and when I'm done, there'll be a show at a gallery in Soho. You'll all have to come. He picked up Tootsie and shook her. We're going to be famous, Tootsie Pie. How about rich, Dad? Jimmy asked. How could we get just a little bit richer while you're at it? You never know, Mr. Fargo said, and for the second time that week, he laughed. If Mr. Fargo gets rich on Tootsie's footprints, will Tootsie get something too? I wondered. That's wonderful news, Frank, Mom said. Speaking of wonderful news, Grandma said, she and Buzzy Sr. stood with their arms around each other. Buzzy and I... Grandma looked at him and smiled. There's only one way to say it, Buzzy Sr. said. Then he cleared his throat and he began to sing, Who can explain it? Who can tell you why? Grandma joined him on the next line. Fools give you reasons, wise men never try. Mother, Mom said, what are you trying to tell us? Why, Anne, dear, Grandma said, I thought it was obvious. Buzzy and I are in love. We're going to be married. Married? Mom and Dad said. Married? Mr. and Mrs. Tubman said. Yes, Buzzy Sr. said. Married. Isn't this kind of sudden? Mom asked. It may seem that way to you, Grandma said, but at our age, sudden is okay. It's not as if we haven't met each other's families, is it? She and Buzzy Sr. laughed. When is this marriage going to take place? Mom asked. Oh, I don't know, Grandma said. Maybe tomorrow or the next day. Tomorrow? Mr. Tubman said. That soon? Well, yes, Grandma said, while we're all here together in Maine. Couldn't you wait? Mom asked. I suppose we could wait until next weekend, Grandma said. Mom and Mr. Tubman looked like they were in shock. I expected them to fall over any second. Grandpa, Libby said, what exactly does this mean? Does this mean I'm going to be related to the Hatchers? Related? I said. Related? Sheila cried. Grandpa, you can't do this to me. And I cried, Grandma, you can't do this to me. Jimmy just stood there, laughing. And Fudge looked confused. So I don't have to marry Sheila because we're getting related anyway? Right, Grandma said. I can't believe any of this, Sheila wailed. Don't worry, honey, Fudge said. I'll get you some of Mitzi's monster spray. Well, Mr. Fargo said, this calls for a toast. Didn't I see a bottle of champagne on ice? Good thinking, Frank, Buzzy Sr. said. So there's going to be a wedding in Maine after all, except Sheila and Fudge aren't going to be the bride and groom. Grandma and Buzzy Sr. are. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I like Buzzy Sr., and I'm glad Grandma's happy, but does this mean we'll have to spend every holiday with the Tubmans? Does it mean I'm stuck with Sheila as my step-something for the rest of my life? That night, everyone sat around making wedding plans. Even Mom and Mr. Tubman got involved. I guess it just took them more time than the rest of us to get used to the idea of his father marrying her mother. We want to keep it very simple, Grandma said. Something informal, outside, under the trees. Teas, Tootsie said. Yes, sweetie pie, Grandma said. Trees. She bounced Tootsie on her lap. Muriel, Sheila said, can Libby and I be your bridesmaids? I'd be honored, Grandma said. I've always wanted to be a bridesmaid, Sheila gushed. But we need dresses, long, fluffy dresses, maybe pink or lavender. Oh, let's not bother with dresses, Grandma said. But all we have up here are jeans, Sheila said. We cannot be bridesmaids in jeans. You can if you're creative, Grandma told her. What about me? Fudge said. I'm creative. Can I be a bridesmaid too? You can be the ring bearer, Grandma said. What's the ring bearer? It's like a bird breathe. It's like a bird breather, I told him. Really? He asked. No, Mom said. Peter's just being very silly. The ring bearer carries the rings, Grandma said, on a pretty little pillow. What rings? Fudge asked. The wedding rings, Turkey Brain. I thought you knew all about getting married. All I know is you get to sleep in the same bed. That's the best part, Buzzy Sr. said. Mom shook her head. Really, Buzzy? Grandma and Buzzy Sr. decided on a Saturday morning wedding so they wouldn't interfere with the Sunday ball game. Every time they went to town, they invited someone else. Mom said they had to tell her how many people were coming and soon. How else could she plan this wedding barbecue? Oh, just figure everyone's coming, Grandma said. Everyone? Mom said. What does that mean? It meant the guy from the hardware store, the butcher from Sawyer's Market, Dorothy of Oz, and a couple from the jewelry store who sold their wedding rings. It meant the Ickles from the ice cream parlor, Bicycle Bob, Isabel from the library, and Mitzi, Mrs. A, and B. And Big. Mom worried about the weather, but when we woke up on Saturday morning, it was clear and warm. We all helped decorate the yard. We tied pink ribbons around the swing tree and set pots of pink flowers in Fudge's garden. Sheila and Libby showed how creative they could be by sewing beads and ribbons all over their jeans and t-shirts. At the last minute, Sheila decided we should dress up our animals too. She tied a pink satin bow around Jake's neck. Then she asked me to tie one around Turtle's. You do it, I said. I'm not that good with bows. I can't do it, Sheila said. Why not? You know. Because he's too smelly and disgusting for you to touch? He's not that smelly anymore. Then why can't you do it? Sheila took a deep breath. All right, she said, I'll do it. But you have to hold him still. I think Sheila's still scared of Turtle. But now that he and Jake are going to be stepdogs, she's making an effort to get along with him. Turtle wasn't crazy about having a pink satin bow tied around his neck. He tried to eat it. Next, Sheila decorated Uncle Feather's cage. Ole, she said, snapping her fingers. Ole, he answered. The guests began to arrive at 10:30. Big wore his Red Sox uniform, but not his spikes. He gave Grandma and Buzzy Sr. an autographed baseball for a wedding present. Mitzi brought them a bottle of Monster Spray, just in case. And she had one for Fudge, too. Grandma just made it, she said. It's so nice and fresh. Actually, the bride and groom got a lot of interesting gifts. Matching bike helmets from Bicycle Bob, a book called How to Survive Your First Year of Marriage from Isabel, a set of hand-painted rocks from Sheila and Libby, a painting called Baby Feet Go to a Wedding from Mr. Fargo, the only copy in the entire world of Tell Me a Fudge by Farley Drexler Hatcher, and a 25-foot banner from Jimmy and me. We'd been working on it all week. It said, Who can explain it? Who can tell you why? Mural and Buzzy, August 28th, Southwest Arbor, Maine. Grandma and Buzzy Sr. liked it a lot, even though we forgot to include the year. Grandma said it was better that way. Just before the ceremony, Fudge asked Mitzi to help him be the ring bearer. He showed her the lace pillow with the gold wedding bands resting on it. Then he whispered something in her ear and they giggled. The judge was the last one to arrive. She pulled up in a shiny red pickup truck, wearing her judge's robe. She looked familiar, but I couldn't remember where I'd seen her until she said, What are you doing here, Junior? It was winning robe. You're the judge, I said. That's right, Junior. My name is Peter, I told her, not Junior, and my grandmother is the bride. Well, isn't that something, she said. I hope you behave yourself today. When in Rome, I told her. This time she laughed. The ceremony began a few minutes after 11. The bride wore a white jogging suit. She bought it at the sports store where Fudge got his Mitzi. She had a pink flower tucked behind her ear. The groom wore a black jogging suit. He had a pink flower pinned to his sweatshirt. They kept smiling at each other. When in Rome started off by reading some love poem. I almost laughed because I had this picture in my mind of her playing first base in her judge's robe. Then she got down to the important stuff, like the "do you take" question. She asked Grandma first, "Do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Grandma said, "I do." After that, Buzzy Sr. was supposed to place the ring on her finger. But just as he was about to take it from the lace pillow, the ring bearer and his helper sang, "Surprise!" And they started twirling, holding the pillow between them. We were surprised, all right, because as they twirled, the rings fell off the pillow and landed somewhere in the grass. "Oh, oh," the ring bearer said. Everyone got down on their hands and knees to search. "Suppose we can't find them?" Sheila asked. "Can Muriel and Grandpa still get married?" "Don't worry," Win in Rome said. "I'm here to marry them one way or another." "Here's one," Dorothy of Oz called, holding up a gold band. It took a few more minutes before Bicycle Bob found the other. "Okay," Win in Rome said. "Let's give it another try. And this time, no surprises." She looked at Mitzi and the ring bearer. "But surprises are fun," Mitzi said. "Next time you try that kind of stuff, you tried that kind of surprise, you're going to get a big surprise from me," she told them. They got the message. On the second try, everything worked. Win and Rome pronounced Grandma and Buzzy Sr. husband and wife. Then they kissed and everyone cheered. Well, almost everyone. A few people like Mom got teary-eyed. The wedding barbecue was a huge success. Big helped Dad and Mr. Tubman tended the grills. Tommy Ickle had bought gallons of ice cream, and Mr. A had baked a blueberry wedding cake. So we all wound up with blue teeth, all except Fudge. He still won't go near a blueberry. The party lasted for hours. Everyone was having too much fun to go home. Finally, the bride and the groom fell asleep on lawn chairs. I knew how they felt because I was pooped too. Only the Fudge-maniacs were still going strong. Sheila yawned and sat next to me on the porch steps. "Wasn't that the most beautiful wedding?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "It was the best wedding I've ever seen." "It was the only wedding I've ever seen." Sheila smiled at me. "I just want you to know, Peter," she said in her kissy face voice, "that even if we're related, I'll always hate you." "That's a relief," I said, "because I'll always hate you too." "Promise?" she asked. "Promise," I said. "Let's shake on it." I put out my hand. She grabbed it. Then we shook. The end.